Yeah.
All right, I'm going to committee to order at 5:33 by Verizon. And the mayor is not feeling well, so he asked me to preside tonight. And we have a brand-new member of the school building committee who also happens to be a brand-new member of the municipal building commission, who will be attending his first meeting next Wednesday. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Andrew Acosta. Resident of Attleboro. I've got two older stepkids. One's a junior and one's a freshman in the high school. And I've got two younger kids, age 4 and 4 months.
Who will be attending the new high school.
Right, and that's why I wanted to get involved and be a part of it.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, first item of business is that we have minutes from March 13th, March 20th, and April 11th. They've all been sent to you by email. Is there a motion, Jackie?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve all three. So, is it you to talk about the community outreach? Is it them?
Yes,
Who's?
it's me.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
You want to drive?
Just tell me when to push the button. I'm good.
All right. So, I wanted to just show the SBC a couple of things that we've done in terms of community outreach. So, right now I'm up on the Attleboro Public Schools webpage, and you'll notice that on the top tab, which is the easiest thing for people to see when they arrive, we have added high school project as one of the options. Now, without clicking it, you'll notice that people will find 4 options in the drop-down menu. The project home, the project overview, the Facebook page, and then questions and comments. So we'll go to the home first, which you can get to either by just clicking high school project or that home selection. And that brings you to this page, which is still on our website. You'll notice that your 4 choices that were in that drop-down are now on the side tab. And what this page really is a widget that has our Facebook feed on the page. So some people who are, natives to the world of Facebook might just find us there in the first place, but I know some people aren't comfortable with Facebook or don't want to have to log into Facebook. And so what this shows the Facebook feed for someone without needing to go to Facebook. So you'll notice, we are still at attleboroschools.com. You don't have to be a Facebook user to get the Facebook feed. And if you click on
This?
the little bar,
Oh, the bar.
you can
Scroll
scroll and see that there's the feed, and that's available to someone who is more comfortable in a web page browser, right? So that's what the home page is. The project overview is just that slideshow that we used at the community presentation. So it's just a PDF that you can view, and then that's a link to the Facebook page, which we'll go to real quickly. So again, it's the feed you've already seen from the home page, but this is the Facebook, so we are now logged into Facebook, and so that's our banner, that's our picture is the A, and we have information, and then we're constantly updating as we go. That's what we've been updating regularly with the information that we're getting. There's a couple of us that are administrators on the page, so it's a team effort to make sure that the information is always going out there. And I'm here to tell you, as one of the administrators, the photos of the renderings were a big hit this weekend. I can't tell you, my phone just was blowing up with all the likes. Yes, very, very, very popular browsing this weekend. So big hit on that.
And I think a lot of people shared it as well, so that it went out on
Yes.
multiple feeds.
Yes, yes. And then if we just go back to the project page, the last thing I'll show you and this is probably the newest thing.
Up top.
Up here?
Yeah, we go there. Questions and comments? We've also set up Woo-foo, which, you know, I sometimes wonder that my life has come to the fact that I say words like woo-foo, but this allows people to put in their name, either their email address or phone number. We ask them to identify like the topic that they're inquiring about, and they can either ask us a question or put in a comment. You know, sometimes people don't really have a question, they just wanna tell you how they feel about a thing, and that's fine, so they can make comments. But if they write something in the question box, then we will do our best to answer that. And then we've identified, we have 5 people who receive this, and then we'll coordinate making sure that they get a response. So that's the project page for soliciting inquiries from the
Are
community.
the
That's right
responses,
there on
David, issued through email, or are they also issued on some website so everyone can see them?
My understanding is it'll go to them via straight by email.
Just them?
Yes.
No, not for general viewing?
Correct.
Like when
We
questions
will
are-
certainly where
Like
we
a
see.
Q&A page, an FAQ page kind of
We'll be
thing?
collecting those kinds of things and putting that together, but that does not do this. Right, this does not do that as we.
What about
So-
the construction look ahead?
That's part of the Facebook feed. So if we wanna go back to that. Go down, up. So.
This way?
nope.
The other way.
This way? Oh, down the bottom? This,
No, go up.
no?
I think, did we already pass one?
It was right onto the agenda, I
Yeah,
believe,
right?
because they posted on Monday.
Going.
What was that? Weekly
Yeah.
construction update.
Okay.
You gotta hit see more,
So that's where people will be able to get the look ahead,
so,
and that goes for what, a week?
Yes.
yeah,
And
that's
then-
week
Week
of,
of 4/29.
Yeah, and then in addition, Gail, you will have a list, an email list?
Yes, I've sent in that same update to the abutters list.
So those who registered their email addresses with us at the last abutters meeting are getting that construction update automatically without having to go anywhere. And for those of you who may be watching at home on television, if you contact the Capital Projects Administrator, Gail Clark, you can get your name on that email list if you would like to be part of that. So we're doing everything we can to let people know what's happening and what they should expect on a week-by-week basis. As you all probably have seen as you drove by tonight, work has started.
absolutely. So I just wanted to review all the various things and how they all work together. It's, you know, there's a couple different platforms being used here, but you know, we tried to make it a cohesive package and try to limit the input so that there's not different information in different places. We want it all to be consistent, and this pretty much takes care of all of that, so. If there are no questions. this is over. Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we have our first construction update from Steve?
Okay. So, along with what you saw up there, the next couple of weeks, we'll start to install the utilities within the north-south connector of Rathman Willard, so within the fence right now. And then we'll start to creep onto the Brennan Field. There's
The western fields?
sorry. There's a drainage structure that needs to go under the ground there that we'll start to install. So the fence will get pushed out west to encompass that area. And then we'll also start forming and placing the concrete pad associated with the sewer pump station down at the corner down to Brennan Field. And then little further beyond that, maybe towards June, would be work within east-west section of Rathman Willard.
Okay. Then I guess I can just give the monthly permitting update, which is that we finished with the zoning board and got all the relief we needed there. We finished with the Conservation Commission, got the order of conditions there, as well as our stormwater permit.
the general site,
Well,
for the high school site.
yes, the stormwater permit for the general high school site, and the order of conditions for the general high school site. We had already gotten those for the roadway that Consiglia started working on. We then opened the next phase of permitting, which is the Highland Park parking lot. And we had an initial hearing before the Conservation Commission, which I think went well. They were happy, I think, that we were preserving those large trees. So the one thing that they asked for was a restoration plan. So we explained to them that the mayor has intentions of making a portion of the parking lot permanent if he can. But they said that that would be, they wanted a restoration plan from us so that if that didn't occur, first of all, that there would, the area would be restored. And secondly, so that if there was another project that came down, such as a performing arts center or any other thing, that the mayor would have to go back and permit that appropriately and ask them to waive the restoration at that time. So we have, we are preparing a restoration plan to submit. They also wanted a snow plowing plan, which I think we'll be submitting shortly as well. Dave McKinley is working on those, correct?
Yes, doing the calculations for the soil relocation, and the snowplow locations and stuff.
We
That's
also
all in
opened
process.
the major site plan review before the planning board. Both of those are now, and they also wanted the restoration plan. Both of those are now on hold because we just got the check to the city on Monday for the peer review by Horsley Witten. As soon as the treasurer releases that, Horsley Witten will begin, and we will then next convene before those boards when Horsley Witten has peer reviewed the stormwater. Then finally, we need a variance from the zoning board as to the parking space size to go to the 9x18s, and that is on for May 9th before the zoning board. So that's where we stand on the permitting. So next on the agenda, I see bid package 2 results and recommendations. So who's handling that? Is that Steve, Mary Ann? Who is that?
Steve.
Me.
Okay.
So, at this point, we're prepared to propose the 3 trade bid results. So it's plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, and just to refresh everyone's memory, the plumbing scope of work entails relocating the existing gas line and gas meter. We're sliding it north onto the, keeping it on the building, sliding it north because right now it currently would interfere with excavation. The HVAC scope is relocating the existing chiller that's kind of outside the pool entrance. We're going to tuck that up closer to the building, pour a new pad there. And the electrical scope, most of it is rerouting electrical up on top of the roof, down to the existing electric room, down to the transformer that's south of the building. That's a majority of the work. So those 3 packages, trade bids, we received 2 bids for each scope of work. Monte and Sons is what we're recommending for plumbing and the HVAC scope. They were the low qualified bidder for each. And then Wayne J. Griffin for the electrical scope of work was the low qualified bidder.
So we're gonna have a different electrician for 1 and 2?
Yes, but the scopes are completely separate enough so that there's no crossover, there's no, they don't even walk the same path.
And it doesn't preclude either of them from bidding on the building.
Right. So where do we stand on the budget on those bids?
So with those 3 bids, the plumbing, based on our initial budget, pre-GMP value, plumbing was $5,800 over, but HVAC was $6,000 under, so that's almost a wash. And then the electrical scope came in about $185,000 under. the bid, under the budget.
Did you say $185,000 under?
I did.
Well, we love to hear numbers like that.
Right.
So, so do we need to take a vote to award those, or?
Yes, that's what we would recommend. That's,
And Mary Ann, you're comfortable with this?
Yes, this is consistent with what we expected. We reviewed it, and, yeah, I would recommend that we approve this.
both contractors, subcontractors, we've actually all worked with in the past. No issues with any of them, for what that's worth. We have experience with both of them, so.
Okay.
Steve?
Yep.
What was that electrical project worth?
$384,300.
Is that their bid, or
That's
was
their-
that your estimate?
That's their bid. Our estimate was $569,650.
That's a substantial savings on
Yes.
that number.
Yep.
And you're sure you de-scoped with them and they didn't miss anything?
Correct. They acknowledge the scope. They acknowledge they're holding their number. They acknowledge the schedule. They are comfortable.
I don't think you're allowed to check that they carried certain things.
Right, they
You're only
acknowledge
allowed to
the
Have them
drawings.
verify and
Correct.
agree that they carried the scope.
Correct.
Or drop out.
Yeah.
That's they can't change their price. They either say that
They decide they made a mathematical error, or they stay in.
Correct.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
What was the value of the second bidder?
They were approximately 100,000. Uh,
494. 494.
110,000.
Who was the second bidder, Steve?
Levangie?
And did Levanchi get the scope on one?
No.
No.
Systems.
That was
Systems,
systems
yes. Okay.
contracting.
Systems didn't bid this phase.
Correct.
So, that's a significant discrepancy between the first and second bidders, isn't it?
It is.
But
That's why you ask them if they still want to hold. Sometimes the low bidder will feel that they made a mathematical error, and that's why they're low. So I think you allow Griffin to go back and recheck
Mhm.
their scope to be sure that they are comfortable with that number. And if they certify they're comfortable with that number, then they hold.
Truth be told, they're one of the most experienced electrical contractors in this type of work and scope, and they've spent decades perfecting it and have incredible buying power because of their size and scope, and this is what they do, so.
And
it
I
makes-
think it's
it makes
important to
sense.
mention that the scope of work for each of these different cloud sub-bid trades on this particular phase are not typical for what these people would do in production work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like installing 600 outlets. This is really different from what most people are doing, but Griffin, where they're very experienced and have a lot of access to different people to do these kinds of things, probably utilize that to get their price down.
No doubt. And Jack, to your point before about the first phase contractor and the second phase contractor, they're completely different scopes of work. One is more site work oriented in the ground, trenching, piping, duct banks, which system contracting is more in their wheelhouse. Not that Griffin wouldn't be qualified, or any of the qualified bidders couldn't do it, but it is two different types of electrical construction for sure. So it makes sense. It's kind of predictable how, I mean, I'm sure you had a pretty good feeling how it's all going to work out anyhow.
Yeah.
Just based on experience.
Yeah, we weren't surprised.
and if I remember right, when we pre-qualified Griffin, they have something in excess of 900 electricians who work for them?
That's what I have been told by their company, that they have 900 electricians.
A lot of availability.
Something for the committee just to consider, even as far as this situation could happen in the future from a bidding on this project, is also there is a large delta, and if Griffin is standing by their number, which it sounds like they are, there's the 100 and something thousand discrepancy, that even if they see a loophole somewhere in there, is it gonna be $110,000 to go to the next bidder in that scenario? So, if you understand what I'm saying with that?
I think what you're saying is that
Saving money no matter what.
sometimes contractors bid very low on a job where they think the plans are bad because they're gonna make it all up in the change orders.
Right.
And not that we're suggesting anybody's plans were bad, but that's something that's happened in the past.
Sometimes
And,
they bid aggressively simply to get their foot in the door, which
Right.
may be the point in this case,
yeah,
where they're looking towards the bigger project and phase.
They'll gain a better understanding of the layout, how your crew is, how it is to work with the city, this group, with the owner's PM. They'll understand. And again, they have decades of experience doing this. This is what they do. This is
So-
this is a widget to them. They've done it 100 times before.
so I think a motion is in order to accept the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC bids.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. What about site work?
On cue.
So the site work is still in flux, where the scope is still under review. We do not have best and final numbers yet. We are not in a position to award that. There's some back and forth on the Highland scope of work. We brought in two low bidders for thorough D-scopes, came up with some value engineering that actually saved a little over 300,000 so far, we think. But we're just not there yet to make a full recommendation. There's a few scopes with bid package 2 that we're not in a position yet.
And when would we be in a position to award that?
We are hoping for next Wednesday to be able to award that.
So are you requesting that we have a special meeting next Wednesday? Or some other day? I know we have Municipal Building Commission that night, but I don't know that we have all that much on the
There's
agenda, do
not.
we? Yeah.
No.
So should we have a special meeting next week of this group, and then have the Municipal Building Commission immediately following?
If that is possible.
We can at least post it, Jack, right? And if we need it, it's there. And
Well,
if
as long as we get a quorum. So, I'm gonna suggest then that we schedule a special meeting for May 8th at 5:30 here, to review the site work proposals and make an award.
And then that would be the completion of bid package number 2 in terms of awarding scope, all scope and bid, correct?
Right, I mean, we would be in a position there to know what the value is of bid package 2.
Okay.
So do you want to defer talking about the value engineering to next week, or do you want to let the group know tonight what the
Yeah, I-
issues that you've been talking about?
I think we should defer and just talk about it in its entirety next week.
Okay, it's fine with me. It'll give everyone an incentive to show up next week and find out where the $300,000 is.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, let the play develop.
Yeah. We're teasing.
What was the, if you can just as a preview, what was the value of the site work that you had predicted, and approximately where are we in terms of the bid?
I actually don't want to get into that. if
You
that's
want to
okay, Jack.
defer that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll leave that
Just
alone.
because this is open to public, which means people bidding the project could be.
Listening.
Okay, understood.
Do we have to vote the mayor to sign the owner authorization letters? Do you have owner authorization?
I do have them,
letters?
yes.
Okay, I think last time we voted each individual letter, I believe. That's the way we handled it.
So there's only one, last time it was only one trade subcontractor.
Okay.
And we actually combined all 3 onto one letter here, so there'd only be technically one letter to sign again,
Okay.
acknowledging all 3 trades.
So therefore, you're saying we should take a further vote to recommend to the mayor that he execute the owner's authorization letter for the 3 trades that we just awarded?
And do you have the total amount for those?
We can add it up.
That's just math.
While they're doing that, Jackie, do you want to make
Moved.
another motion?
Second.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. while they're doing that,
626,100?
is there anything else that we need to do tonight? At the working group last Friday, we talked about security issues, and our next regularly scheduled meeting, is it June 5th?
Correct.
Or is it going to be the second one of the month? Going to be June 5th or June 12th? Because we reversed the meetings. If you remember, we were having the MBC on the first Wednesday and the
6/26.
SBC on the second Wednesday.
Okay.
Do you have a preference as to when we do that?
You do either or, but just to clarify, there's not security issues.
Yeah, let me be.
Security in the new school.
And after seeing the preliminary presentation, we felt it was appropriate to, at our June meeting, whichever date it is, to go into executive session and to have a presentation made to this group and our invited guests as to the security precautions that we're building into the building. And because I think it's appropriate that this group know, but I also think it's appropriate that it be an executive session.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And so, Craig, do you have a preference for June 5th or June 12th?
No, whatever's better for the committee.
So, June 5th?
Well, just keep it the way it was.
June 12th, so it's the second.
Right.
Okay. Let's go with May 8th and June 12th.
So then move MBC to the 5th, Jack?
NBC will be the 5th.
Okay, thank you.
The 8th and the 5th, 8th of May and the 5th
Understood.
of June.
Yes, sir.
So, is that all the business that we have to transact for this evening?
Well, we're, just to mention, we're in the process of finalizing bid package 3, which is scheduled to be issued to Consigli on Friday, for bidding for the general site work, the building foundation work, and the building steel structure work.
Okay.
3 very large bid packages.
Ed, do you have a question?
I was wondering, was there any update on the well drilling for irrigation? What's that?
We were going forward with, one as a baseline, he has to come back and do some more investigation, but we haven't got that done yet.
Okay, I was just curious.
The well is being included as part of bid package 3 on Friday for site work.
Okay,
And we have a baseline for putting in 2 wells, a storage tank, and irrigation system
Yeah,
for the
I-
high school site.
absolutely recall that. I just didn't know if there's any follow-up or
No, we've got
still,
design documents and stuff, and he has, the purpose is, I think you have to wait to drill the wells to find what the flow is, then you
Agreed.
can make further determinations.
Mhm.
And we won't get to that point for 2.5 years, something.
Actually, 2 issues that I thought of. One is that we had briefly discussed the idea that the topsoil that would be removed from this site might be taken over to the driving range at Highland Country Club or at Highland Park. And I think the working group determined that that was probably not the best way to go. Is that correct, Steve?
Correct.
For a variety of reasons, not the least of which we would be bringing trucks on a route that no one has looked at before, which would be down Rathbun Willard over Dennis, up Mechanic, in through the gates, and through the parking area of the clubhouse and all the way to the driving range. A second reason is that we would have to screen the soil to bring it back. And so that would mean that we'd have to set up a screening operation there, which means dust and noise, and a special permit from the zoning board. So for all of those reasons, we thought that it would be better just to simply require the site contractor, whoever that may be, to take it off site and to bring back to us not necessarily the same soil, but an equivalent amount of soil when we need it 3 years from now.
Which is the original plan. That's always been the plan.
So just so that if anybody's heard talk about that, it's not gonna go to the driving range. It doesn't make sense to do that. And then the other thing was, we responded to the MSBA on the 60% plan review that they did. So perhaps somebody want to talk about that?
Sure. So what happened is the MSBA did their review, and essentially they look at the total submission, the drawings, the specifications, and the schedule, all of the things that we included in the submission. There were some comments on the schedule around permitting, whether certain types of permitting was required or not. We provided further clarification on that. And then there were some comments really from the design perspective where we basically said, we'll address this in the next submission. So I didn't think there was anything really noteworthy.
No, from a review standpoint, having done it many times
It's
with them,
minor
it's very
comments.
minor with the comments we had. We're able to respond to them. Most of them were just them asking for additional clarification based on items that were already in the submission. And so that was really what we were doing, was clarifying most of the stuff that they looked for.
There was one issue that I thought might be substantive, and perhaps you can ask Dave to address that, which was the ACA classrooms, which we had made smaller by dividing 6 classrooms into 12, if I remember the numbers correctly. And they raised an objection because those classrooms now would be smaller than their standard size. So, Dave, do you want to address, what the administration's thinking was on that issue?
Sure. The target population requires a smaller setting, so the 850 that I think was the number they were using is
Yeah.
much bigger than you need for that many kids, because we're talking about class sizes in that setting of closer to 10 to 12. So
So yeah, they were treating those classrooms, their question was, because we took 3 825 square foot classrooms and subdivided them in half. And that was based on the programming, their current methodology of instruction, and to allow the smaller class sizes based on the population, and all that. And Dave and Bill were great with working with us to develop a narrative to explain, again, clarify why we did it to the MSBA, and that and why it should be the size. Because they ask many questions related to that is not just about the room size, but staffing, et cetera. And we were working with Dave and Bill. We were provided more than enough info that we feel it should move forward without issue. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to revisit it again.
And did we suggest a change to movable partitions as a way of dealing with that issue?
Yes, so exactly, this rooms will still be dividable as we had planned, but instead of doing a solid wall, we'll be placing operable partitions between them, so that there are acoustic operable partitions. So if the walls are there and you do the small class sizes, but you could always open them up and have a larger flexible space.
it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So you don't lose any general education 850 square foot rooms,
No.
should you need them another time.
So, to me, reading the response, that was really the only substantive thing that was in there, correct? So, I think it was good news that their comments were nothing really that we didn't expect, and do they now respond to our response? They just,
That's it.
no news is good news.
No news is good news. I mean, if they had a question, they would call or send another email, but typically you respond to their review comments, it gets filed, and then something that we do, for example, Skanska will take the review comments, and then when we review the next iteration of drawings, we'll make sure, the following things that you said you were going to incorporate into the next set of drawings actually gets incorporated into that. So, and KBA will do the same thing. They'll keep their shopping list there. Yep.
Okay, is there any other business that we need to deal with tonight?
I just had a question.
Okay.
You had gone over the zoning and stuff. What about the variance for the height? Has that been started yet?
That was already granted.
Oh, it's already been granted,
We
okay.
got a variance from the zoning board, for the height of the building. We got,
Driveway width.
driveway width. We got parking space size. We got
Signage.
permission for the interim parking, because right now, the parking here doesn't meet zoning. It's a fewer number of spaces, but we're creating an equal number of spaces during the interim, and then we meet zoning for the final amount of spaces. So they gave us permission to do all of those things, and for the earth removal, which actually isn't actually removing earth, but it's for the rock crushing operation to amend the soil that we take out of the hole to make it structurally sound to put back in the hole. So they gave us at least 5 forms of relief in their vote.
And a special permit for signage.
And a special permit to alter the signage, because the city sign ordinance was not drafted with a high school in mind. So you're right, so there are at least a half a dozen forms of relief that we got from them. The planning board's major site plan subcommittee is meeting Monday at 6, and they will make a recommendation. Hopefully it will be a positive one to approve the major site plan review. And then at 6:30, that will come before the full planning board for a vote. And I'm expecting a positive vote, but I will attend just to make sure. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That sounds unanimous. At 6:10?